Okay, I'm joined now by Coach Darin Meinders from the Walnut Grove Tigers. And, Coach, we've talked to a lot of people today as we're doing like a big Final Four show. But you're the only one I've talked to all day that I can say you're the defending state champions. So you guys have made it back for your third trip to the Final Four in a row. That is not an easy thing to do, so congratulations.
Thank you. We talked about that tonight. It's not easy, and we told the kids, embrace this and then enjoy the ride.
Yeah, you guys, Toby and I were talking the other day, and, of course, Pete McBride, who's been on this program, and he's got a good team. They've won 30 games in a row this year. They're very solid top to bottom. If you look at North Andrew, who we both know was there last year and had a kid get hurt, or, maybe they could have cut the nets down. They had a good ball team. They got every kid back. But, you guys, I think when you're hot, your A game, your ceiling may be the top of any Class I team, just the amount of points that you guys can put up. So talk a little bit about just your road to get here.
We really upped our schedule this year, and we did that with obviously postseason in mind. And unfortunately, we had an injury early in the season, and so Hunter Gilkey was out for 8 games, and we lost 6 of those games. So we went through some struggles, but we're back playing pretty well. We kind of rolled through districts and sectionals and quarterfinals. We end up winning by 20. But I still don't think that we have put together a complete game yet this year. So it's kind of like you said, we feel like the best is still out there, and that if we put it together and play our A game, that we can be a pretty tough team to handle.
And I agree 100%. I mean, like when you guys are on, not only are you good, you're fun to watch. And the way that you guys press, the way that you can score points in bunches, and the way your kids move the ball. That's, I think, one thing that's very underrated. You get known for your shooting because you guys can make shots, but I think the way your kids are unselfish and the way they move the ball is always, to me, I think that's
right.
It's beautiful to watch.
Well, and when we do that, we are so tough to guard. We've got 4 kids that can shoot it, and when we make that extra pass and make the next one or one more, as we always are yelling up from the bench, we end up getting a great shot instead of a good shot. And you, as a former coach, know it seems like when you make that one extra pass, the shot ends up going in. And so it's stuff that we do every day, and we haven't shot it as well as I think we should, but, we still believe that we have the ability to go on one of those rolls and one of those nights where we just fill it up from outside. And
I'm hoping to see one of those nights, to be honest with you. It's fun to watch. And so how do you feel this year about the tournament moving down to Springfield? That's not a question I've asked to a lot of other people, but, having gone to Columbia the last couple of years, and, the Final Four hasn't been in Springfield since I believe it was 1991. I mean, it's been years since it's been down in Springfield. So what do you think that's going to look like?
I think the crowds are going to be a lot bigger. I actually was here. I came down and watched in 91, and the crowds were amazing, and I think that's a neat thing. It's funny that you asked, because we were really excited about it, because we knew that we could sleep in our own beds and our kids could stay home. But it has created some things that we didn't think about. And when you go to Columbia, you're in the hotel, you go to a shoot around, or you go to eat, and then you're back to the hotel, and all the kids are together, and you know where everybody's at. This year we're not going to stay in hotels; we're staying home, and so we have to meet at the school. go do what we're going to do, drive back 30 miles to the school. And so it's a different atmosphere. I do think we have the advantage of sleeping in our own beds compared to being in a hotel. But, we really didn't think about this, all that time that your team stays together and bonds. Now we're going to have to really work to create that.
That's a fascinating point that you just made, because, when you guys came to Columbia, you're traveling, and I can relate to that. We were coming out of Southeast Missouri, having to travel. And there is something to be said about, going on a road trip together as a team. And, there's good and bad with that. Coach Cookson, I'll never forget, whenever I was a freshman, sophomore in high school, I was a JV player, but I was a pretty good JV player. We just so happened to have like 17 players on a varsity. And, so he had to actually cut it down to 15 players. That's all you could dress for the state tournament. And I won't use the exact language that Coach Cookson used, because it was colorful. But he told those last 2 or 3 or 4 guys that never got to play, that sat on the bench, he said, David wants to go so bad. If you guys can't be quiet in the hotel, this is when we were actually going to the quarterfinal game. And he just basically, I'll summarize in a more politically correct way. He said, you guys aren't going to get nervous because you're not going to get in the game. But the point being, you got guys who love the trip and who, they're going to have a good time, but they're not thinking about your guys like Logan and some of your better players who they've got to get up and perform the next morning. And so, that's happened before, where team goes on the road and the bench keeps the starters awake too late or whatever, and you don't play well the next day. And so you don't have to worry about that this year. That's kind of fascinating, but you're also not, like you said, going through that bonding process either. So.
Right, and I tell you, it's so different than when I was growing up and when you were growing up. You talk about kids getting sleep. I don't know what the game is, but Fortnite now, these kids, they're playing live on PlayStation, and they're playing till 1 or 2 in the morning. So they may be home, but they're probably going to be playing Fortnite and got their headphones on, talking to each other, even though they're in different towns. So it's a complete different environment than when you played with Coach Cookson, when I played growing up. But again, I do think when you have the luxury of being in your own house, that you are going to sleep better.
Absolutely, and your fans will travel a lot easier. It's a short drive from Walnut Grove to the arena there, so you guys will definitely have a big outpouring of support. And so, you've got 3 teams that I think everybody thought at least could be here. Eminence or Advance, I think, could have went either way. But that's not a shocker that Eminence is here. It's not a shocker that you're here. It's not a shocker that North Andrew's here, even though they barely got by in overtime. The other reason, there's some unknown with that other reason, but Chamois has made their first ever trip. So congratulations to them. But what do you think about the field? I know you got your scouting report, and I'm not asking you to give up too much information here, but what do you think about the field of teams that are up there this year?
Well, you summed it up. North Andrew, they were there last year. They returned their top 8 players. They're undefeated. So they're obviously they're a handful. Eminence. Pete does a great job there. His son's a heck of a player. He's got good kids around him. 6'7", and he's going to be a handful. So you're going to have to play, and I think it's a great field for the Class 1. Whoever's in the state championship, whether North Andrew or us, is going to be ready to play, and whoever they face. And I'll tell you, I don't know much about Chamois, but you can't take anybody lightly if they're in the Final Four. And,
that's exactly right.
If you think it's going to be easy, that's when it'll sneak up and get you. And so, our kids, we're not going to change what we do. You know what we do. It's not a secret. We're gonna force tempo and we're going to try to play fast and if we get a look, it's going up. And so, we took in our sectional game the other night, we took 48 threes. So, our kids are going to shoot it.
Wow. I mean, so here's the real question. If I can get a seat close enough behind your bench, do I get one timeout? Only a 30, not a full. Can I call one timeout if I sit close enough to your bench?
Hey, I've always told you.
I might have a good idea. Come on.
Anytime you want. You come up there, you can draw up a play. I told you last year you were welcome to come to our shoot-around before the state championship. You know that. But, no, definitely, I love to. It's always great to see your friends and see people that you don't get to see a lot. And like you said, it's gonna be a big crowd. And I think the one thing that Southwest Missouri does is they love their basketball, and you will have people that will be sitting there all day watching games, and they won't have a team had or a horse in the race. They're just there because they love basketball, and they'll sit there all day and watch every game. And I don't think we saw a whole lot of that in Columbia.
I agree.
I think that's the biggest difference of bringing it down here.
I agree 100%, and that's why being in Columbia, I could drive about a mile, but I'm looking forward to coming to Springfield for that exact reason that you just said. I'm hoping for the kids' sake that the atmosphere is terrific, because for the last several years in Columbia, it has not been, just flat out. It has not been a great atmosphere unless you made it to that championship Saturday. Then it was pretty good. But the first couple rounds were not, and I'm really hoping for the kids' sake that it's a great atmosphere and they get to make some memories. And we're wishing you the best of luck. You're one of the really good guys in our profession, and you always do a great job, and I'm happy to see your guys make another run at it.
Hey, I appreciate it, and thanks for all you guys do.
Okay, thanks a lot, Coach. Good luck.